So, after just 3 seasons, we've managed to knock off Germany and France. Our next stop on the Glory Hunter campaign would be Portugal, as we were offered the job at Sporting Lisbon. However, it's not the Sporting Lisbon from the start of the game, as key players such as Gyökeres, Inacio, Fernandes, Trincao, Edwards and Fresneda had already left the club. In addition to that, the first player that wanted to leave when I arrived was Pedro Goncalves, who Inter Milan signed from me for 45 million, only for them to be worth between 108 and 126. Diamandi was still here though, and he's a centre-back that I absolutely love on this game, and I will be building the team around him to try and compete for the title. And last season, Sporting finished in third place behind Porto and Benfica, finishing an astonishing 14 points behind the champions. Porto's manager also left Portugal, but in his place arrived Jurgen Klopp, one of the world's greatest managers, and somebody I'm now going to have to go head-to-head with to try and win the league. I weren't able to make masses amount of transfers, and the first 5 that you see that arrived on a free were already pre-arranged and here. First signing I made as the Sporting Lisbon manager was bringing Lucas Bergvall from Tottenham on a loan deal, followed by Angelo. Shaquille Van Persie was our first actual transfer for 15 million, potentially rising to 21. And another striker arrived who I've never signed or had on Football Manager before. However, Rafael Durasinme looks incredibly good, and at 6'4" as a complete forward, I think he will do wonders for this side in the Portuguese league. I raided Tottenham again for Alpha Divine for just 2.5 million. However, he will just be a squad player and not a regular starter. Our opening game of the season was a home tie against VTC, and Fatawu gave us the lead after just 18 minutes. However, it was a rather drab affair after that, and the score remained the same. We were on top for most of it, and Lucas Bergvall got the man of the match. We then won 7 games in a row before we hosted champions Porto. And despite the champions being the favourites, we got off to a great start when Fatawu's cross was met by Richarlison, who headed it home at the back post after just 5 minutes. And on the 35th minute, we doubled our lead when Idan Toklamate intercepted a through ball and pushed it past Ugurkan. Toklamate added his second of the game when he met a Fatawu cross and scored at close range. It was 3-0 going into the break, and Porto had no response in the second half. We won 3-0, and we've won every game of the season so far. Another 3 wins in a row against Famalicão, BVT and BRG. It meant we'd won every game of the season, going into what would be our toughest test away at Benfica. And the score was 0-0 right up until the 86th minute, when Braganca's free kick was met from Diamandi, and he struck it home. And we were 1-0 up with just a few minutes left on the clock. We thought we were going to take all 3 points, but in the 93rd minute, Benfica managed to snatch an equaliser when Neres toe-poked it home at the near post. It were the first points we'd dropped all season, but I was extremely happy with the way things were going, because there were 4 more wins in a row against Varzim, Santa Clara, Estoril Praia and Casa Pia. And it meant in the league we were 7 points clear. We'd scored 51 and only conceded 12, winning 16 out of 17 and just drawing the 1, undefeated at the halfway point. And we were progressing very well in the Taça de Portugal, with 3 wins from 3, despite the home tie against Paredes requiring extra time. It meant we were through to the 6th round, and again, we were at home against Trafonse. The Europa League phase got off to a good start with a 4-1 win away in Cyprus. We followed that up with a 3-1 home win against Turkish side Besiktas, and an impressive 0-0 draw away in Rome. However, our only defeat of the season so far had come in the Europa League, and that was away in Stuttgart when Jørgen Strand Larsen scored an 89th minute winner. We then struggled at home against Fenerbahce in a 1-1 fairly even contest. But a 2-0 win away at Brighton was probably one of our most impressive results of the season. It left us in 11th place going into the remaining 2 games, but I was confident we'd find enough to get us through to the next round. So things are going incredibly well again, just like they did in France with Marseille, where we exceeded all expectations in Season 1, I feel like we're doing something similar again here with Sporting Lisbon. We didn't inherit a very good squad. We've had to tweak around with some of the players that we've got, and we've brought in some signings that I didn't think were good, certainly not on the level that we made in Marseille. But they've slotted in and done okay. Lucas Bergvall being the pick of that, really. He's played 20 games, he's got 6 goals and 6 assists, and he is the top average rating there, 7.3, just 20 years old. He's been a mainstay of that centre midfield, and he's done incredibly well. I am going to have to show you Frank C, though, or Seye, maybe it's pronounced, I'm not quite sure. He's from the Ivory Coast, and he has come up through the ranks here at Sporting Lisbon, and I promoted him from the youth team, or the B team. He was in one of them. I've promoted him up to play in the first team just because of how good he looks. Now, he's not the fastest, but he's got some incredibly gifted attributes there. And at just 18 years old, he's done exceptionally well in this team alongside Bergvall. It's very young central midfield, but look at the attributes on him. He's done so well, played good in the Europa League. He's been good in the league and the cup. He's just done exceptionally well since he's come into the team and really kicked on and taken advantage of me, giving him that opportunity. So 15 goal contributions for him in 13 appearances. Abdul Fatawu is the player that has surprised me the most. He's a bit like Ismail Issar at Marseille. He's done exactly the same thing for me, albeit he's playing on the right and Sarr played on the left for me at Marseille. But he was already a player in the squad here. He's decent attributes, looks fairly good on paper, but he's just never done it at Sporting before I'd arrived. So I've just put him in this inverted winger position in my formation, and he's just hit the ground running. I mean, he's really fast, and he's got good technical abilities as well. He's been really, really good for us. 11 goal contributions in 13 league starts. Richarlison was here already. We're paying him a lot of money. He can play up front, but I've predominantly been playing him on the left. And he's done really well as well. I'm not quite sure how he ended up here at Sporting, but I've inherited him here at the club and I've utilised him as best I can. Normally when I'm doing a Tottenham save, he's one of the first players I get rid of. I quite like him in real life as a character and as a player, but he's just, for me, not a natural goal scorer. He works hard for the team. He does really well to press defenders, and he's a good squad player, but as an out-and-out striker, he just never really hit the ground running for me. And like I say, in Football Manager, I never really keep him if I end up with him at my club, but albeit I've put him to good use here at Sporting. So the striker I signed, which was Rafiu Durasinme, has done really well. He scored 11 goals in 12 games, 11 in 16 altogether since he's arrived here at Sporting. And he's just been fabulous. 6'4", complete forward. Like I say, never had him before on Football Manager, and he's just come in and done a really good job for us. Exceptional signing. Now, I want to give a shout out to this Israeli youngster. He's 22 now on the game. He is young on the game when it starts. And as you can see here, he's waiting a work permit decision on joining Tottenham. So Tottenham have come in with a big bid for him, 45 million. But he's been fantastic for us. He has been our best player. I didn't show you him on the squad page there when I was showing you it sort of by average ratings. He's actually sat above Lucas Bergvall. He's got 4 goals and 4 assists in 10 games in the league, 12 goals, 4 assists in 20 starts across all competitions this season. 7.31 overall average rating. He's been absolutely wonderful, and again, he's one of those players that can play up top or in either of the wide areas. I've predominantly used him on the left or as a striker when Durasinme's not been available, but he's been brilliant for such a young kid, and it's a shame we're going to lose him, but he desperately wants to go, and we're going to have to make some signings to backfill that position. So first signing that I've made is Fabio Carvalho. He's come in for us He will replace Toklamati. I think he's good, not as good as Toklamati, but he will come in and do a job for us. And he's also Portuguese, which helps with that homegrown quota. And the next signing, he was transfer listed for 5.75 million. Fabio Moretti, very good player on the game, young Italian, got some good attributes, and I think he will add some depth to that team. Obviously, we've only got Bergvall here on loan for the season, so Moretti is here on a permanent deal. He'll probably be the starter over Bergvall next season. And I've brought Lauren in for 10 million from Flamengo, but we've loaned him out to Casapia for the rest of the season, just to give him some game time. If I'm still here next season, he will be a mainstay of that squad. I think he's got a really good ceiling, very high potential, and will do some damage in this league. And I also brought Estevao. I'm not quite sure why I made this signing, if I'm perfectly honest, but I think he's probably more suited to the Portuguese league than the French. He wasn't getting many games at Marseille, and as you can see on the right-hand side there, they dropped him down to the second team where he got 2 goals in 12. I thought it was going to stunt his development, and I kind of want to see how he develops on the game, so I brought him here to Sporting, and we're keeping him in the squad. We'll utilise him for the rest of the season. And, we'll see whether we're here next season or not. And if we are, we'll use him again. If we're not, hopefully this is kind of the right level for him at the age he is with the attributes he's got on this save. I also want to give a special mention to this lad who, again, has come up through the ranks here at Sporting Lisbon. Looks very good. He will be a player I will use next season if I'm here. Kane Battersby, Portuguese. What a name for a Portuguese player, Kane Battersby. But yeah, he's come up through the ranks here at Sporting, and I've not really had the opportunity to use him that much. So he is in the under 23s, getting some game time there. I did try and loan him out, but I couldn't find anyone that would take him. So he's just there developing his trade in our under 23s. So that is the halfway point done, and I will now go progress the rest of the season, and we'll see how we get on with the rest of Season 1 here in Portugal. We'll start off with the second half of this season with the Taça de Portugal, the Portuguese Cup, where we've managed to get through to the semi-final, and we've won the first leg away at Braga 6-3. Confident we'll get the victory or at least a draw at home, which will see us go through to the final, where Benfica are waiting for us should we get there. We got the final 2 victories in the Europa League, beating Tel Aviv 4-1 and an impressive 1-0 win at home against Valencia. That saw us finish 6th in the table, which means we didn't have to go through to the playoff round, straight through to the last of 16. We were up against Feyenoord in the last of 16 when we travelled to the Netherlands, and unfortunately we conceded on the 58th minute when Sauer put it in past Umanov. The home tie was a very comfortable 3-0 win though, and that progressed us through to the quarterfinals. And a home tie against Eintracht Frankfurt kicked it off when Fabio Moretti on the first minute scored a wonder goal into the top corner from 25 to 30 yards. We had to wait while the 89th minute for our second goal of the game, but Romero's fine finish meant that we took a 2-0 advantage into Frankfurt. It took Moretti just 1 minute in the home tie, but away from home it took him 3 minutes. A toe poke from the edge of the box beat Trapp, and we were already 1-0 up. Frankfurt equalised on the 31st minute when a wonderful strike from Marmoush's free kick beat Naumov, and it was 1-1. Frankfurt took the lead on the hour when Marmoush's strike went straight past Naumov. Somehow it went down as a Francis OG. Wasn't long before we pulled it back to 2-2 though, when Richarlison reacted quickest from Fatahou's strike off the bar. Marmoush was having a brilliant game, and his second free kick of the game went into the top corner, and Frankfurt were 3-2 up. Fortunately, we held on for the victory, and despite losing on the night, we were through to the semi-finals, where we'd face Real San Sebastian, and if we were victorious here, Rennes or Everton would be waiting for us in the final. I was finding the Portuguese league a little bit too easy, to be honest, and straight into January there were 6 victories in a row before we travelled to FC Porto. And we played some exceptional tiki-taka football around the 30th minute, which led to the opening goal from Jurasinmi. Wonderful finish and great team play. It was a fairly even game, and on the 77th minute, João Mario had plenty of space to run in on goal and slot the ball past Naumov. It was 1-1. And then somehow, in the 97th minute, Ousmane Diomande rose above everybody from a Morita corner, and we were 2-1 up 7 minutes into stoppage time. An incredible performance and an incredible victory. We were outright winners, and although the game was fairly even in possession, we pretty much dominated the shots, and we'd walked away with 3 points against our biggest title rivals. It really set the scene, and the following 7 games was a clean sweep of 7 victories, and with just 4 games remaining, we were hosting Benfica, where victory would give us the league title at the first attempt. Benfica had come with a bit of a game plan, and we were doing everything we possibly could to take the lead. Fatawu hitting the post after 5 minutes, and Isugu's follow-up being skied over the bar. Incredibly, we got to the 86th minute without any goals, but Serge Gnabry's header gave Benfica the lead. We had absolutely no answer to that, and we'd suffered our first defeat of the season when victory would have crowned us champions. We followed that up with a 1-1 draw away at Varzim, and Benfica was starting to claw back into it, and I was beginning to wonder if we were going to bottle it. But a hat-trick from Afonso Moreira and a 5-2 victory at home to Santa Clara gave us the league title with 2 games to spare and a 7-point cushion. And we were also through to the Portuguese Cup final after beating Braga 3-0 at home and 9-3 on aggregate, meaning we'd face Benfica in the final, who were the only Portuguese team to beat us this season. We only managed 2 points from our remaining 2 games against Estoril Praia and Casa Pia, which meant we actually only finished 3 points in front of Benfica as they won their remaining fixtures. A tight 3-2 victory over Real San Sebastian in the first leg of the semi-final, and after being 3-0 up, conceding 2 in the second half, was extremely disappointing. But we managed to hold on for a 0-0 draw away in Spain, despite Real San Sebastian being the better side, more shots, and completely dominating possession. It meant we'd play English side Everton in the final, and considering the final would be held at the City of Manchester Stadium, I couldn't help but feel Everton had a slight advantage. I felt we went into the final as underdogs given how good Everton are and how competitive the Premier League is, but Jura Sinmi scored a wonderful strike on the 30-minute mark to give us the lead. And ironically, on the 40-minute mark, it was former Everton striker Richarlison who headed Omar Frank's Sayer cross, and we were 2-0 up at half-time. 4 minutes into the second half, Jura Sinmi got his second of the game when he struck it past Royfs to make it 3-0. And it was still just one-way traffic, and Morita made it 4-0 on 53. And there was even time for a fifth when Frank Sayer rose above everybody from Fatawu's corner. And even after the ref checked with VAR, the goal stood, and we were 5-0 up. And despite being the underdogs, we absolutely dominated the final. An impressive 5-0 victory over Everton meant that we were celebrating our first European trophy of this Glory Hunter Challenge by knocking off the Europa League here with Sporting Lisbon. All eyes turned to the Portuguese Cup final, where the 2 best teams in Portugal were playing it out for the chance to win the trophy. And despite us starting pretty strong, we just couldn't get the ball in the back of the net. Jura Sinmi's strike at close range was saved by Trubin, and his follow-up was saved yet again. It was 0-0 right up until the final whistle, and this competition was going to extra time. There was to be a decider though, and it was Lucas Bergvall, our on-loan centre midfielder, who's had a wonderful season, scored a wonderful goal to make it 1-0 in the 96th minute. There was no response from Benfica, and we claimed the Portuguese Cup. It was an incredible feat to do a treble, winning the league, winning the cup, and winning the Europa League. I thought we'd achieved much very quickly at Marseille, but this was even far more impressive. I think the Marseille thing last season was impressive because of how good PSG are in real life, and the fact that we were managing to topple them after just one season with a basically newly formed squad was pretty good. But we did buy some good players when you look at who we managed to bring in. You know, Kone and Doué in centre midfield, Yoro and Bichiabu as the centre backs, Restes as the goalkeeper, Wahi as the striker. We did manage to make some pretty good signings and put together a very good squad, which in hindsight I thought we achieved too much too soon, but realistically it is a very good squad. Whereas this squad here in Sporting, and I know the Portuguese league is less competitive. You've got the big three clubs in Benfica, Porto, and Sporting Lisbon, and Sporting did win the league in real life last season. So they are a good side, but they lost some key players, and I actually lost my best player in January. I lost my best player when I first arrived. Goncalves went to Inter, and then my best player in the first half of the season, which was Toclamate, then went to Tottenham. So despite losing the best of the squad, they've just done really, really well, and I can't begin to emphasise just how good this has been. And I've said it time and time again about how easy Football Manager 24 is compared to previous versions. And the formation that I use and the players that I bring in to adapt to the formation just seems to work absolute wonders. And I've been blessed. And as you can see there at the top of the average ratings, there's Franck Seye, who's got 26 goal contributions in 28 for an 18-year-old. And he's come through the youth. So I'm quite fortunate that he's come through the youths at the time that I'm here. Rafiu Durasinmi, the player that I bought, 34 goals in 38, and I didn't think he'd be that prolific with being a complete forward. I thought he'd be, I always say a complete forward is a kind of like a target man come deep lying forward. That's how I see a complete forward. But in reality, he's been very much like a pressing / advanced forward. Richarlison's done brilliant. A player I just normally ship off as soon as I've got him. Shaquille Van Persie's done well when he's come in. Marita there, centre midfield. He's ended up playing 40 games and getting 16 goal contributions. Lucas Bergvall has been fantastic. Nicolas Romero at the back there has been great. I can't throw enough positives at them. It's an unbelievable achievement. And I thought I'd have a chance with the league title. And I've been quite fortunate with the League Cup in who I've been drawn against. Benfica is definitely the toughest opponent that I had once I got through to the final. And I think we were a little bit lucky about getting the goal in extra time, because you just never know. And it could have gone Benfica's way, could that final. They beat us in the league at home, so they could have beaten us in the final. But we were fortunate. We played well and got the victory. But the Europa League, and again, we kind of just had a bit of an easy run, because I always think the Europa League is strong. It's a very strong competition with some big clubs in it, and we never really, other than Everton in the final, are they a big club? Evertonians will tell you they are, but in comparison to other clubs in England, they've probably underachieved for a very long time. But the fact that they got to the Europa League final in this save, I didn't think we'd be able to beat them, but stuffed them 5-0. And we didn't really play anyone big along the way. We've, Feyenoord, Real San Sebastian, to name a couple. But yeah, we've had a fairly comfortable running and been fortunate to get the results that we've got. And we're only 4 seasons into Glory Hunter, and we've completed 3 of the leagues, which I couldn't have asked for a better start. I've given myself 15 seasons and only 2 seasons at any one club. I've only needed 1 season at Sporting Lisbon and Marseille. So it's time to resign from here and look for something else. We've got England, Italy, Netherlands still to have a go at, as well as Spain. So, yeah, we'll see how we get on. But that's it for this one. And with Portugal complete, as well as adding the Europa League to our trophy cabinet, with now no need to return to Germany or France as we look to one of the leagues we've not managed in yet for Season 5.